was not but a half a year ago that I was first introduced to the Shantae series with Half Genie Hero, a flirty, fun action platformer with a heart of gold. It didn't take long for me to get hooked with its endearing characters, bold story, and unapologetically lewd art style. This game wears its heart on its sleeve, and I love it. The game, while fun, was a bit too easy and linear. Obviously, this didn't stop me from playing it at all. Besides, I love me some linear platformers. It keeps the controls basic in the best way and focused more on tight movement. Even the upgrade system is intuitive, and for what it lacked in scope, it made up for in personality and just sheer fun. So when I finally came across Shantae and the Seven Sirens, I was eager to delve into it and see just how different it is from its predecessor. And what a tremendous change it was! This game decides to take a more classic Metroidvania style, with vast maze-like tunnel systems, secrets hidden within the walls, and even upgrades out in the open just teasing you until you have the right ability to access it. All of this just adds to its already larger than life personality and super tight controls. And that's the thing here. It's not just trying to be another Metroidvania. It's being a Shantae game first and foremost. It's chock full of personality, and that means every character has a distinct charm to them. And I gotta give Sky a special shout out, as she don't give a damn about the impending apocalypse. She just wants to work on that tan. It is unfortunate that not a lot of time was spent on them, because this time was allotted to the newer characters. All the new characters have this distinct trait that makes each one pop. There are so many of them, like these scientists you meet halfway in the game. You help them research by doing fetch quests. Well, it's a Metroidvania after all. Anyways, you dive down with them in their bathysphere, but it gets attacked by something. And this lady could care less. But seriously, she's seen some stuff. When you land, you find the culprit. Turns out, Squid Baron was behind it. For those of you who don't know, Squid Baron's a narcissistic video game loving blob with a love for meta humor. So pretty much every video gamer ever. While clever and funny in the previous game, I don't understand why he's here in this game. It felt forced, and it didn't really gel well with the story. Unlike the Squid Baron, the new half genies you meet are here entirely for the plot. There are, count 'em, 5 new half genies in the game, although one of them is not what they seem. Anyways, let's move on. The story here is a lot more ambitious than its predecessor. I always felt, while Half Genie Hero's story was fun, it often felt disjointed at times. You had the main plot of protecting the town while Uncle's machine is being built, but it just seems as if things happen without reason. This one focuses on this resort island that you visit that has a dark secret lurking below its waters. Here, no story beat is wasted. Things happen for a reason. The story is tight and efficient. Everything that's set up in the beginning has a payoff. Like, there's this little mermaid gal that you see popping up in random portholes throughout the game, and the payoff is actually pretty good. I won't spoil it. You'll figure it out yourself. But there's twists and turns. By the time you get to the final area, there's this tense feeling in the air. The stakes are palpable. I already love these characters, but this story just took that to a higher plane of existence. And the finale wraps it up in a nice, neat, pretty little bow. While most of it works well, though, I gotta be honest here, some of the side plots just kinda happen. As mentioned before, there's a subplot that involves Sky, Squid Baron, and some armor that you get midway through the game that really feels out of the blue, and it doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of what's going on. But that's just a nitpick. Now, outside of the dialogue, the character art and animations help to drive these characters so they feel more than the sum of their parts. The art style has this cartoony, Disney-inspired style with a generous dose of anime. Each character has an awesome artistic rendering along with their little sprite, and both do an incredible job of displaying this character's persona. We've even got these anime-inspired cutscenes with full voice acting, more or less. It's more like what happened in Sparks of Hope, where you get certain lines of dialogue that are full, and then there are some where there's just huh and and stuff like that, you know. And just take a look at these idle animations. Tell me this isn't the most energetic idle animation you've ever seen. Unfortunately, this energy doesn't really extend to the running and jumping animations, which is a terrible shame. It would have been nice to see each of them have this distinct animation to match their personalities, but I understand budgetary constraints and so forth. Oh, I guess you win some and you lose some. Anyways, I was going to criticize Seven Sirens for not evoking an atmosphere worthy of a Metroidvania, but upon further pondering, I realized that it actually does in its own subtle way. Each area does an adequate job of conveying the theme that it's going for. The art style and level design may not be at the same tier as Hollow Knight or Super Metroid, but it does its job, and that's all it really needs to do. And while the game is trying to convey a sense of fear and danger, it's also hopelessly optimistic, whether you like that stuff or not. The devs don't want to undermine that cheery attitude too much with the dreary tone. That kind of tonal shift would give the player extreme mental whiplash. So it's juggling a few contradictory themes, and it requires skill to integrate them seamlessly. And I think they did a fine job doing this, to be honest. As I got deeper in, the more tense things felt. But it was all rectified when I returned to the surface. And this tonal juggling act also applies to the music here. It conveys the tone and feel of each area in a satisfactory way. It's not exactly memorable like half Genie Hero soundtrack was, in my opinion. But again, it does its job. It's something that serves beautifully as background music and nothing more. That being said, there are quite a few tracks that are stuck in my head and I can't stop humming them to myself. Jesus, these are some bangers. So, I'm not gonna lie, the boss battles were easily my second favorite aspect of this game, only beaten by the personality and charm. Holy hell! These boss battles are some of the most inventive, original, and fun that I've played in a long time, and that's even including its predecessor, Half Genie Hero. Each boss utilizes a gimmick that requires you to use your freshly acquired transformations to exploit the boss's weakness. And this is something that you solve on the fly, it's not told to you explicitly. Take, for example, this Octobrain boss. You have to hit each of these little brains in a particular order, all while the boss is hurling attacks at you. And if you hit the wrong one by mistake, you gotta start over. It forces you to play a memory game while also keeping an eye on what the boss is doing. It's so inventive and original. It kept me on my toes the entire way through. And then there's the final boss. Now, this won't really spoil the story, so don't worry here. The first fight is a relatively straightforward brawl, but the final form, oh baby! You have to carefully platform up and down this massive mama and break these little jewels that are giving her power. And she doesn't just let you frisk her with these, no! She strikes at you with unrelenting force. I cannot tell you how much these little shield power-ups saved me in this fight. I absolutely love how much thought and creativity was put into these boss fights. More studios, including Nintendo, need to start taking notes from Way Forward. Traditionally, Metroidvanias tend to hide relevant power-ups in previous areas to encourage exploration, whether you see it as a good thing or not. But I was pleasantly surprised as there was surprisingly little backtracking. I still did it out of habit, by the way. All of these missions are all tightly woven together, so you don't have to go out and wander around and try and find these stupid treasure that you really don't need. You can, but it's not necessary. And even if you need to backtrack, all of the areas are accessible via this nifty warp room. And more likely than not, your objective is located very near to this warp room. Now, because it's a Metroidvania, means that it isn't completely devoid of backtracking. The annoyance of crossing the whole world again to get some specific item for a specific area is greatly cut down by the efficiency of the level design and these warp rooms. While the level design isn't super great, the world design is actually incredibly cohesive. As it is with its personality, a great deal of care was put into designing a fluid environment to traverse with efficiency. Each area of the world clearly communicates to the player where to go, usually by using simple barriers that require transformations unlocked later in the games. Typical Metroidvania stuff, blah blah blah. Sometimes, though, it feels as if the game is telling you where to go. But then there's times when it doesn't explicitly tell you where the objective is. I personally would have liked if the game stuck to a more nuanced approach and allow the player to figure it out as they go. But I feel it's a good balance, especially for the newer players in the audience. Now, I know some players don't like that, but the Shantae series I think is designed for more beginner players in mind, even though I personally don't believe in beginner-only games. And with so many others in the genre being brutally hard, it's nice to see one that'll introduce a whole new audience into the great genre of action-adventure platformers. And Shantae and the Seven Sirens fits the bill perfectly for the role. It's got character and charm oozing through, and the gameplay is exceptionally tight and fun. Now, that doesn't mean veterans of the genre are excluded. The difficulty, particularly compared to its predecessor, is ramped up considerably. Again, it's nowhere near the previous mentioned Hollow Knight or Metroid Dread, but it does throw more enemies at you than ever before, and it's just more difficult. It's hard to describe. It's just more difficult than it was. Now, if you do want a challenge, you can choose a harder difficulty when starting up this game. And if you feel the difficulty is still too easy, you can simply opt out of using any power-ups just to kind of give you more of a challenge. And it's not just the fact that this game has personality, but that it allows you to play the game however you want. It's old school, just like Super Metroid, but without the sequence breaks, mind you. The fact that it allows you to approach it with your own flair is what makes Seven Sirens feel more than the sum of its parts. I criticized Sonic Frontiers recently for its lack of identity compared to its classic roots. But Shantae and the Seven Sirens is not like that. It knows what it wants to be, and it does so with flair and charm only a Shantae game can deliver. And that's my assessment and review of Shantae and the Seven Sirens, everyone. If you couldn't tell by my glowing review, I really like this game. It's got charm, personality, and boobs, but I want to know what you guys thought of the game if you played it before. So hit me up in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.